We're kicking off today with TNA's shocking invasion of NXT, which began right at the start of the show as Eric Young, Moose, and Matt Cardona appeared behind Trick Williams and Oba Femi. However, the surprises didn't stop there, as throughout the night, tons of TNA stars arrived with the Angel Warriors, Mance Warner, Steph DeLander, Cedric Alexander, Zachary Wentz, Steve Macklin, Victoria Crawford, and Mike Santana all popping up. WWE put a unique angle together by having many of them seated in the NXT audience throughout the broadcast, and NXT cameras even showed more as former WWE superstar Jessie McKay, better known as Billie Kay, appeared at ringside as well. The show built toward the title versus title main event, which led to Mike Santana jumping the barricade to join the commentary team, adding some fuel to the invasion angle. He was soon followed by Frankie Kazarian, as Cardona then appeared again to a huge ovation from the WWE crowd, who were happy to see him back in this environment. The main event began and Femi and Williams wasted no time throwing some heavy shots. With less than 15 minutes of the show left, they didn't take the time to slowly build this one up, which was a good thing. Instead, it was a complete war as Femi bulldozed the TNA World Champion with several shoulder tackles, and they hooked the fans in immediately due to their intensity. But the finish proved to be chaotic, as Williams provoked Santana into attacking him. This set up a disqualification finish, and a huge brawl erupted between TNA and NXT stars as the arena erupted as the invasion reached its climax. Somehow, amid everything, it would be Ricky Saints and Femi who stood tall, eventually having a stare down ahead of their NXT Championship match to hype it up. The invasion angle obviously sets up a world of possibilities for WWE to explore, and the atmosphere was already intense from this one moment alone. Fans are already speculating what might be next, such as a War Games match. Meanwhile, with TNA's Victory Road and NXT's No Mercy around the corner, there are question marks over how each show will be impacted and whether or not there will be any more invasion angles moving forward. Now, the real question is, did the TNA invasion live up to the hype? Did WWE and TNA deliver the kind of chaos and unpredictability you were hoping for, or do you feel the booking left something on the table? The TNA roster picked their moment well to create this much chaos, as the NXT general manager Ava was not part of the show because she was in England conducting important business for the promotion. That left Robert Stone and Stevie Turner in charge, and while they tried to contact her about the impending invasion, she couldn't hear them properly and put her trust in them to handle the situation. That'll set up an interesting storyline when Ava does return to television, as she's going to have a lot of issues to handle both with the general NXT roster and with all the problems that the TNA invasion is set to cause moving forward for the roster. Elsewhere on the show, Javon Evans was interviewed backstage, but ended up being interrupted by a loud noise as Jasmine Nix was then shown laid out backstage, having been attacked by a mystery person. Some may suspect that Lola Vice was the culprit, but the timing suggested she might have been the first victim of TNA's invasion angle without fans even knowing it. To add to the drama, Jacy, Jayne, and Fallon Henley were shown nearby, but they showed no compassion as they said, "Hey, it was time to drop her anyway." It was a cold line, but it made one thing crystal clear: the Fatal Influence split has officially happened, and it's taken place at a strange time in NXT. Enjoying the video? A quick like goes a long way in helping us grow and deliver more wrestling news you care about. Lexis King's issues with Myles Borne continued this week when the former AEW star was making his entrance, only for Borne to shut off the lights in the Performance Center before attacking him. King did fight back, hitting a running knee which sent Borne into a steel chair, but he was only able to get a near fall for his efforts with that. However, he continued to use the chair to inflict damage throughout. Despite having the weapon, he was unable to keep Borne down for the 3 count, with a level of aggression clearly evident, which put over his heel character. The storyline has been brewing for several months, but it took a back seat in the past few weeks to other angles, so this follow-up felt like it took slightly too long to happen for many people. Regardless of that, the two men brought the energy to ensure that fans were engaged, yet the darker lighting ultimately hurt the presentation, as it was genuinely hard to see all the action when they were at ringside. It might have been the case of taking the lights out gimmick slightly too seriously, but they still pushed on regardless as they put together several dangerous moments. The pinnacle of that came when Borne hit a huge spear through a barricade, which sent King crashing into the guardrail as his head appeared to collide with a metal bar. It was a scary landing that led fans to audibly wince in the moment, as it looked like a career-threatening blow that could have been even more serious in the moment. Borne then got the win by putting King through a Slim Jim table with a jumping takedown to pick up a major victory for himself. Elsewhere, Ethan Page made his way to the ring as Dr. Wagner Jr. was shown watching from the crowd, as Page welcomed him to NXT before he complained about the outcome of their Worlds Collide match. The NXT star then challenged Wagner to a match, and he was happy to accept as they brawled in street clothes, with Wagner getting the best of the situation, making Page tap out in less than a minute. However, that's when the big surprise was revealed as Wagner took off his mask to reveal that it was actually Tavion Heights. This wasn't really a match as the bell rang and the decision was made just moments later, creating a unique angle by having a champion essentially be squashed in a matter of moments. Speaking of Page, an interesting moment took place earlier in the show when Myles Borne crossed paths with Ethan Page on his way to the ring, locking his eyes on the North American Championship. It was certainly a tease for the future, and if Tavion fails with his title opportunity, then it wouldn't be a surprise to see Borne be the next in line for the gold. What makes the entire situation interesting is that Tavion and Borne are both former members of the No Quarter Catch Crew, a connection that could be brought up and might drive a wedge between them as they chase championship success. Would you like to see Myles Borne step into the North American title picture, even if it risks his friendship with Tavion? Yet another interesting backstage segment took place, which saw main roster star Lyra Valkyria and Tatum Paxley reunite backstage in a brief segment that had plenty of intrigue. Lyra reflected on how her friendships often seem to throw others off balance, citing Tatum's eccentric personality and Bayley's recent behavior as examples. Unsure if she was to blame, Lyra asked if it was all her fault. Paxley assured her that it wasn't, and the two shared a quiet, comforting moment. That piece was interrupted when Izzy Dame appeared, pointing out that Valkyria had once dropped Paxley before, and Paxley was smart enough to know it could happen again before dragging a smiling Paxley away. The women's speed tournament continued on this week's show as Candice LeRae and Lainey Reid competed against each other in the final round, with the winner earning a title shot against Sol Ruca. Given that these matches are 3 minutes in length, there's little room for character work, but it can be impressive to see how much they're able to pack into a short time, even if there's no room for selling. LeRae seemingly had things wrapped up when she locked in the Gargano escape, but Reid ended up reversing it and getting the win with a running knee to earn a title shot. Interestingly, Ruca and Zarya were in the crowd holding signs to mock the two competitors throughout the match. Meanwhile, it was strange to see LeRae acting like a babyface during her entrance even though she's a heel. This is something DIY also did during their recent return, seemingly relying on the nostalgia of their former NXT glory. There was another huge women's match this week as Jordynne Grace battled Ariana Grace in singles action, and they were not fighting over the rights to their last names. Ariana wasted no time in attacking her opponent before the bell rang, but that didn't help her as the former TNA star took control as soon as the match was made official. Despite that, the daughter of Santino Marella took several cheap shots with dirty tactics to give herself plenty of advantages, but it wasn't enough to get the win. Jordynne ended up capturing the victory after a short match by hitting the direct effect, which is a spinning powerbomb. The match itself was fine, but it was the third short match in a row, and that's something that started to drag the show down in terms of its quality. With Ariana disappointed, Stax appeared at ringside to comfort her. Meanwhile, Blake Monroe popped up with a kendo stick to continue her feud against Jordynne Grace. Jordynne saw it coming though, and she got a chair, hitting Monroe several times until officials pulled them apart. That led to Robert Stone and Stevie Turner making a weaponized steel cage match official between the two women at No Mercy. There was a weird moment within this match when Ariana knocked down Jordynne to hit a splash, but it seemed like Jordynne forgot what was going on in an awkward spot. It was clear that Ariana still needs some work inside the ring, even though she understands the comedic timing of wrestling just like her father. Jacy Jayne and Lola Vice ended up in a promo segment with each other ahead of their No Mercy match, with Jayne giving a promo about defying all of the expectations that fans had put on her. She laughed at the possibility of Vice taking her title from her, but the #1 contender then turned up and took Jayne out, leaving her laid out with a back fist after a babyface promo. We're ending with Andre Chase appearing backstage with a fake-looking black eye in a segment alongside several NASCAR drivers, which created a crossover moment that took a turn when Hendry appeared, which set up a 6-man tag team match against Darkstate. The segment brought some humor as one of the NASCAR drivers admitted that he didn't know Hendry's name, which seemed like an attempt to undercut him without presenting Hendry as a star. It seemed like the celebrity guest wasn't briefed properly, and that led to an awkward interaction that made it hard to take Hendry seriously. Regardless, Hendry teamed up with Chase U's Uriah Connors and Cale Dixon to take on Osiris Griffin, Saquon Sugars, and Dion Lennox, although Darkstate opted to jump the babyfaces during their entrance. The match ended up being fast-paced and chaotic, although the action was easy to follow despite how much was going on. Given the numerous short matches that had taken place prior to this, it was nice to see a longer encounter that required a commercial break. All 6 guys brought their best with a lot of energy to make this an entertaining encounter, with Darkstate eventually getting the win by pinning Connors. Last night's episode of NXT did one thing well, and that is hype the upcoming No Mercy event. How did you like it? Sound off in the comments below and leave your thoughts.